What's up, everybody? Matt Modi here with Jedi Modi Sports Network, and let's chat player props for Thursday Night Football. We got Lions at Packers. It's going to be a really good game, and I have two NFL player props for you guys to lock in for this Thursday Night Football game. For those of you who have been following me along with my channel, number one, I appreciate you. I mentioned this on Twitter, so go ahead and follow me at my Twitter handle you see on the screen here at Jedi Modi if you're not already, but I'm switching things up, so no longer am I going to be doing Tater Time, at least for the time being, and I'm going to switch this up and start doing just some plain old NFL player props instead of specifically touchdowns. The reason why? The success just hasn't been there. I have been getting smoked on my Tater Time anytime touchdown picks. Went 0-2 on Monday Night Football, bringing my total loss down to like 9 units through 3 weeks. Was really, really bad. I didn't want to keep just putting out these plays that weren't hitting, so I decided to switch it up. For those of you that have been following me for a while, remember that during the NBA season, I ended the NBA playoffs on a ridiculous, I think, 20-2 streak on my NBA player props. And these were all plays that had reasonable odds, not like minus 500 at Jokic scores a point, stuff like that. So hopefully we can continue that success specifically with the NFL player props. As I mentioned, I have two for you guys for the game, and let's chat about it. So the first play that we're going to go ahead and lock in here is Luke Musgrave over 36.5 receiving yards. This is at minus 115 odds at Barstool. So one thing that I do want to note, and this is going to be my general process regarding these player props. One thing that I noticed for the past 3 years, basically since I've been sports betting, is that FanDuel is consistently the sharpest when it comes to NFL player props. I'm not sure about NBA specifically. This is just talking about NFL. But when I was first sports betting, I would notice that FanDuel was consistently the outlier. Every single time, FanDuel was different than the majority of the sportsbook. So I said, hey, that's an outlier. That seems like a great play. What I learned by doing that was I lost the majority of those player props, learning over that time that FanDuel is generally pretty sharp when it comes specifically to player props. So instead of taking advantage of FanDuel thinking that they're the outlier, I instead use them as one of my sources of a sharp sportsbook. Now, I don't just blindly bet against FanDuel every single time, but I also don't think that blindly taking the FanDuel outlier is a profitable betting strategy, unless I just had really bad luck. But there's 3 years of data that I've gone back and looked at. So I will admit that part of my rationale for these two plays is looking at what FanDuel has the lines at and taking something that's an outlier to FanDuel. Again, that's not the end all be all. That's just another data point that I look at. So just now we're on that point. To start off with FanDuel, they prices over under Luke Musgrave at 38.5. 2 yards at a lower total in the 30s is a pretty big deal. So 2 yards above where we're getting it is what FanDuel has it at. Also, looking at this matchup, the Lions are below average at guarding tight ends. This is looking at DVOA as my source for that. They're currently ranked 22nd in the NFL, specifically at guarding tight ends. Now, keep in mind that week 1 was without Travis Kelce, so maybe they'd be even worse if he played in that Lions-Chiefs game. But this makes sense when you look at the roster. Their secondary is banged up, most notably Chauncey Gardner-Johnson Jr., who probably would have taken the majority of the tight end duty. At least that's what he did when he played for the Eagles last year. So it's not surprising that the Lions are vulnerable up the middle of the field. And looking specifically at Musgrave, rookie tight ends are generally pretty scary. He's been good through 3 weeks. Last week, he had a season high, which again, it's a 3-week sample size, but that's all we have to go off of. Last week, he had a career high in targets with 8 targets. He rewarded the Packers with 6 receptions for 49 yards. He also hit this over-under in week 1 as well when he had 50 yards. And for those of you that have been watching Packers game, I'm not going to pretend that I'm super dialed in, but I have just been interested to see what Jordan Love looks like. He looks for Musgrave a lot. He also looks for Musgrave a lot, specifically going deep. And there's been about 3 times I can count on specifically where he had Musgrave deep, wide open, and the connection just wasn't there. So I do think that the connection between these two is going to boom soon. And then my last point here is looking at props.cash. Now, I couldn't find out what goes into their projections. So again, similar to the FanDuel thing, I'm not just blindly following what props.cash has, but they have his projected receiving yards, Luke Musgrave, at 51.73. When it comes to pretty much anything with gambling, don't have one source be your source of truth. Have multiple data points that support your wager. If you have that, then I think that's something you should be comfortable betting on, which is exactly what I did in this one with Luke Musgrave over 36.5 receiving yards as our first play. Next up, we have Sam Laporta to go over 43.5 receiving yards. So yes, I am on both of the tight ends in this game. I will admit I was close to taking his alt receiving yards at 50.5, but the value just wasn't there. It was like plus 110, or sorry, 50 plus. But regardless, it was only plus 110 odds, so it really wasn't there for 7 yards higher. So I decided against it. But regardless, I do really, really like this play. Number of reasons why. To go back to the FanDuel example, they also have his receiving yardage over under priced above this number, which is at least FanDuel telling you they think he's likely to go over the price that we got it at. And to stick with the same projection point, props.cash has Sam Laporta projected to have 70 receiving yards. So if he's even close to that, he will fly over the total that we got. But what I like about this one is Sam Laporta's targets have gone up each week. And he's also a rookie tight end. So all 3 weeks, his targets have gone up. In week 1, he had 5 targets and he caught all 5. In week 2, he had 6 targets. And last week, he had 11. And he's been playing well all 3 times. So the more targets he's getting, he's rewarded the offense with stellar play. So I believe that he's earning the trust of the offense and the offensive coordinator and Jared Goff. He's going to be continue to be rewarded with more and more targets if he continues to play well. Then looking at the Packers, they're more middle of the pack, no pun intended, when it comes to guarding tight ends. They're not as bad as the Lions. They're also not one of the best teams. They're average. So average, I think, is good enough for Sam Laporta to have a good game. And that's all I got. 2 player props for you guys to lock in. Let's hope we can go 2-0 and have some success with these. If you're riding with me, comment and let me know. Other than that, remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.